Hey everybody and welcome. I went through my camera roll and found this jelly printing video that I have never posted. And I thought it's time to do this. It's been a while that I've recorded it, about a few months already. But I think I will be able to do a little voiceover anyway. I'm going to make some grungy, colorful prints in my A4 sketchbooks. The spiral bound ones that I've been using for jelly printing for about the last 10 months around. Maybe it's already a year. They are full now. I filled them last weekend and I will do a flip through soon. Maybe you'll leave me a comment if you want to see a flip through this sketchbooks, because I'm not sure if it's exciting. I personally would not watch a flip through jelly prints from other artists, I think. So maybe you let me know if you would like to see the flip through. Yeah, and this is a session that I recorded a while ago, as I already said, where I do prints in these sketchbooks. And I wanted to do some grungy prints because I really like grungy textures and when it's colorful, so I can use these papers for collage, for card backgrounds, for original pages, for tags, for all that kind of stuff. And I started already by using black acrylic paint together with a stamp, and I stamped this to the bigger jelly plate. And here I'm going in with a little bit of white, and I just spray over the wet stamped paint, and this gives me a second pattern when I roll. It also gave me a really interesting pattern on the cleaning paper. And I am experimenting and I try out how I can get some grungy textures on the jelly plate. The stamp is from any of our Pencil Mark stamp sets. I believe it's 1 or 2. I will link all the stamp sets I've used in the description of the video. I think I'm letting the texture now dry on the jelly plate so that it does not smear in my next step. And in the meantime, I have removed some of the paint to my cleaning paper, and here I'm stamping just some circles to the cleaning paper with that black paint, just to use it up and not to waste it. And often these messy cleaning papers are wonderful for original pages or collages. When you cut them down, you get some really interesting bits and pieces sometimes. The images on the plate are dry enough, and I'm going in with the burnt sienna from Amsterdam, and this is the Indian yellow from Schmincke, both very transparent colors. That's what I love when I do jelly printing. I like to have mainly transparent colors combined with one opaque color to pull the print in the end. That's my go-to way of jelly printing. Recently I experimented a bit and did it a bit in another way, but this is just, I think this gives me the best results. I now print this directly as I worked quite quickly. The paints are not dry, they dry really fast on the jelly plate, so you always have to either work quickly or let things dry and add another layer of paint. I'm always using a bigger piece of paper. This is a newsprint paper to lay it over the print, because I don't want to smear the other side of it with paint. That's really interesting, and that's what I love about the transparent colors. And here I have some fragments left on the plate. Also something I really like because it gives you automatically grungy textures. When I work with these sketchbooks, which are, by the way, from Kunst Papier, these are drawing sketchbooks with 160 GSM paper, and I love them for jelly printing. And I think the paper thickness is perfect for everything. You can use it as a cardstock for a card background, or you can use it for collage because it's still thin enough. You can also do some die cutting with it. Now I have printed the black from that smaller jelly plate to the bigger jelly plate, and here I just clean off the smaller one with my cleaning paper. The cleaning paper, by the way, is also a Gelli print. I just had a blank backside and I use it to clean my brayer, so I have a double-sided print. I will probably not use it in the end because I will use the most prettier side, but you never know. I have now the black textures on the bigger plate, and here I've rolled out some white paint. It's from Schmincke, the Primacyl white. Very opaque, a really nice paint when you need an opaque layer of white. I will now do the stamping with white, and I use some circle images also from one of the pencil mark stamp sets. It's either number 1 or number 2. I just have never in mind on which set these are exactly, but as I said, I will link them up in the description. Back to the sketchbooks. What I wanted to say is when you're printing in the sketchbooks, you don't want to close the sketchbook right away after your Gelli printing session. What you should do is lay your sketchbook onto a table right to the edge and let the fresh prints hang over so they are loose and air can go in between them and can dry them completely. If you close the book too early, the pages will stick completely together, so you don't want to have this. Make sure the pages are super dry before you close the books. Here I'm still waiting for the paint to dry a bit. I'm not sure if I should do a fast forward mode, because then you cannot print along with me if you like. Because when I move forward, you have to pause the video and so on. But sometimes it's quite boring to watch paint dry, especially when I don't have to say something and I almost have no idea what else I should tell you. The next paint I'm going to use will be that Indian yellow again. It's from Schmincke, as I already said, and I love the transparency and the vibrancy of it. It's similar to the nickel azo yellow that I have from Liquitex. Quite similar. And it's a really pretty color. And I'm combining this with a pink from Amsterdam. I don't have in mind which pink it is exactly. It might be the permanent red purple? Oh, I don't know. I will write you the names of the paints I've been using here also in the video description, so you can find that out. I think I added a little bit too much to my plate, so I picked something off and put it onto my little helper plate to use that later. And I already can tell that I love the color that I'm getting here. It's such a pretty pink and orange, and I bet it will look nice with the black and the white fragments. I'm now going in to bring in a bit more contrast with a complementary color. It's a turquoise. And now I think I'm going to let this dry and then add a layer of white paint on top to pull this whole print. When you have so many different colors, okay, I don't add a white layer, but what I wanted to say, if you have many colors and you take your time to fill the plate, some areas might be already dry and they will stick to the plate when you don't add another layer of paint. But sometimes I do this on purpose. That might be the reason here, because then I get kind of a grungy print, because not everything transfers to the paper, and I have some leftover fragments for the next print. So let's see what happened here. Yes, I'm laying it back because I think some paint is still on the plate and I didn't want this to be. Oh, but it worked out quite nice. And I love the print, by the way. There are, as I said, there are some fragments left, but I don't mind that, and I think it's an amazing print. I really love this. I think this area underneath is hard to pick up because there is already some old paint on it, and here I decide to pick that up because I assume that also with the next print the paint will stay in this area, so I'm just going to pick this up separately to one of my cleaning papers. Sometimes when things don't get off your plate, you can just leave the paper until everything is dry, and then you will get the texture off. I got a little bit of the texture here, but not everything. What you also can do to clean your Gelli plate is to add a layer of paint on top of the whole plate, put a paper down, let this dry overnight, and then remove the paper. It will give you a nice print, and it will also give you a clean plate. Here I'm using the System 3 fluid acrylics to clean the whole plate, I think. It's so long that I did this jelly printing video that I truly cannot remember, and I haven't touched the prints because they are in these sketchbooks, and I did not want to touch them before I haven't filled them. So now I will be able, if I will make the flip through, and then I will be able to start using these papers, and I can't wait to do so because there are papers that I made a year ago or almost a year ago, and it's interesting to come back to them and use these in artwork I'm making now. Now let's see what's on this print, and I really like it. Still the area underneath in the left corner is still not off the plate, but a little bit, and the textures are amazing. Really like that light pink together with that grungy fragments on top. I'm now going to use that pink paint from the small round plate, and I transfer it with a stamp to the Gelli plate. I will now go in with the Phthalo Turquoise from the fluid acrylics of the System 3, Rowney, and I think I now remember that printing process. I think these fluid acrylics are not perfect for the Gelli plate because sometimes they get so clocky or chunky and pick themselves up when brayering and all that kind of stuff. But they gave me really nice and chunky prints. But I think I remember I was not happy with the workflow of them. And I usually only use the Amsterdam Paints and the Schmincke Paints, and sometimes the basics from Liquitex on the gel plate. I'm taking my time because I wanted to have these paints dry on the plate, so they don't smear or get off when I brayer on top with another layer. I cut a bit out now of that waiting time because I don't want to bore you. And here I go in again with that Indian yellow. I love the combination of these colors together. And I also love how the turquoise and the yellow are mixing. Such a beautiful green. And now I'm going in with a layer of white paint to pick all that stuff up because it's so thin, and I let the layers dry mainly, not 100% as you can see here. And that's what was the stage where I recognized that the fluid acrylics are not perfect for how I am jelly printing. But you will see, I remember that print, and I flicked through the sketchbook recently, and I thought, oh, this is a really nice print. I really like it. It worked out really nice, although it was a bit more messy than I think it's usually. So yeah. Isn't this a lovely print? I really like the colors and the textures going on. I'm using again the turquoise from the fluid acrylics. And this time I'm using also one of our stencils to create some pattern on the plate. And that's the organic stencil number 3. It's a really lovely stencil for card backgrounds when you have some ocean themed projects. Another beautiful print. I really like the textures I get with these paints. Although I feel it's a bit harder to work with them, but I think the prints are just so different compared to the usual acrylic paints I'm using. For the next print, I searched for some old jelly prints that have a blank backside, and I just wanted to print them. I really love to have double-sided prints because then I can use these papers for folding projects. I also have more options to choose from, and I also don't have to store so many papers because it's just half of the papers if you print both sides. This is quite a boring print because there is no texture on it, but I think I'm going to print on top of that later in the process. But now I have these lovely burnt sienna and pinkish colors on my plate, and I'm going in with Phthalo Turquoise from the Fluid Acrylics again. And this is complementary to the colors on my page, and that's what I always do. When I have some paints on the page already, I would go with a kind of complementary color on top of that area, because that gives you a super interesting texture on the next print. I let this dry a little bit. I cut that out again because then you don't have to wait until it's dry. It takes maybe 2 minutes or so until I go on top with white paint. This time I'm not using the fluid paint. I'm using the normal white De La Rowney System 3 paint. And I really like this. These burnt sienna textures are amazing. I think it looks so pretty. It would just be beautiful for any kind of mixed media project, or for original pages, or for a greeting card, or for collage. In the end, I didn't do anything to that boring reddish print, but here is a flip through of the prints I made today. Not so many, but I think they are really pretty. If I have a pretty one, I usually photograph these or I scan these in to keep them, so I have the option to print them if I want to use the same print again. I hope you enjoyed this video today, and I wish you a lovely rest of the day. Bye!